Hello there, everyone. It's day 6, Healthy Holidays. In a couple of hours' time, you'll be cooking a lovely meal this afternoon. I'm not sure what it'll be, but it'll be exciting. Probably to do with chicken, I'd imagine. You'll have done exercise yesterday. You'll have had a whole week of this program already, so I'm sure you know the deal by now. As per usual, if you like the video, obviously like it. If you want to see more, subscribe, and you know where we are if you want to watch any other videos. So today it's healthy holidays, it's healthy eating today, and it's the power of surplus. So I'm sure as some of you might know, let me try that again. I'm sure as some of you might know, we are actually an organisation that runs on surplus food. Today we're going to discover what surplus really means and the ins and outs around that. So as always, first things first, let's start with our learning objectives. First, learn where surplus food comes from. So where does it come from? Learn how our surplus suppliers help the environment. So when somebody sends us surplus food, it might be a large supermarket, it might be a warehouse. How does that help the environment? Why does that help the environment? And we all know, this is Callie. You've seen her twice now. She's our surplus superhero. She's a cauliflower who eats the right food so she can save cats from trees and save people from burning buildings. She can fly. She's awesome. But as I say, I'm sure you all remember Callie. Do you? So, mood and food recap. I'm not going to play the video for you. I am just going to show you these points because you should have seen the video in the previous presentation. If you didn't, I'll put the link down below in the comments so you can actually watch this video if you want to. So mood and food recap. This is what we talked about last time. This is how what we put into our body affects our mind and how we feel. So the things we need to focus on is making sure we eat regularly, getting our 5 a day, looking after our gut. That's eating really good foods for our gut, lots of nice vegetables and fruit, getting enough protein for our muscles, managing our caffeine levels, because caffeine really does affect our mood, and eating the right fats. So those are the things we talked about and touched on last week that really help affect our mood. Because as we learned in the video, the chemicals within our gut are actually very similar to the chemicals in our brain.
Hello.
Apologies for that. So yeah, the right food and how it affects our mood. So today, obviously, as I said, we're talking about surplus. So we're going to discuss what the definition of surplus is. So if you pull the definition of surplus out of the dictionary, you'll see it says the following: an amount of something left over when enough has been made, an excess of production or supply. So when we produce something, let's say cat food, there might be too much cat food or more than a supermarket orders. So your local supermarket, the little one you go to, the big one you go to, they might order, I don't know, 100 bags of cat food, but the place might produce 120 bags of cat food. Well, those 20 bags of cat food they didn't order, where do they go? Or if they go out of date tomorrow and there's still 20 bags left, where do they go? These are examples of surplus products or items, anything that's been produced that there's too much of, or there's more supply than is needed. And normally what happens with surplus is often it gets thrown into the ground. Not good, that, is it? So what is surplus food? It's overproduction, it's packaging malfunctions, labeling errors, oversupply, and a short shelf life. So overproduction, as I just said, there's too much of it made for what's needed. Packaging malfunctions, the package might say, you see this package says British mushrooms, it might say mushroom British, and the organisation don't want it to say that, they're not happy with it, so they would not sell the product. So this product would normally get thrown in a bin. Labeling errors, again, similar story. It might say 750 grams when actually it's 600 grams. They can't sell that. It's too much work to relabel it. It just gets thrown in the bin. Again, oversupply. It's not necessarily that too much has been made, but it's more that they've ordered 100 and actually they only sold 50. So they've ordered way too many. They don't need that many. And then a short shelf life. The product might arrive in the supermarket tomorrow and it's only got a few days on it. They've got 100 of them to sell. They're not going to sell them all. So that's an overstock. That's a surplus and not get thrown away. All those things in food production mainly because of the shelf life and things like that. But in clothing manufacturers, it happens everywhere. Surplus stuff just gets thrown away. So what is surplus? Let's just watch this little video. Where did we get up to? Apologies, it's been a bit of an uninterrupted session today. So, sorry about the disjointedness there. A couple of member queries. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what surplus food is. That and the definition are quite a good combination together. So let's start the next slide. So this is a reflective task. So I've got two questions for you, which I'll give you a few minutes to sit and think about. One, how much food do you waste that could be used? And how could surplus food be used for good? So question number one, when you think about it, is there fruit and veg that you throw away that probably could have been made into a smoothie or a soup or into a muffin or a cake? What other foods have you got in the house that maybe you shouldn't have thrown away? Maybe they could have been really useful actually, and they didn't need to be thrown in the bin and put in a hole in the ground. And then how could surplus food be used for good? So what is there? What could you do with the surplus food, and how can we use surplus food in the world as a country to, reduce surplus food and to make a difference to people's lives? take a few minutes to talk about those 2 points, and then I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, if you need more time, obviously pause it and you can discuss it further if you like to, but I'll carry on with the presentation. So, what did you think? Is there quite a bit of waste that you think, you know what, actually I didn't need to throw that away? It could have been used for something else. Did you think that? Did you decide what you could have used it for? Do you think you'll do that in future? What about the surplus food being used for good? Is there anything that you potentially think, actually, you know what, I could have donated that? We've had those tins of beans in the cupboard for ages. We probably could have donated that. It's only best before. Did you? Not a problem if not, I'm just curious. So, can you come up with, just discuss between yourselves, how many ideas you've got for how you could reduce food waste in your home, in your school, in your community? So at home, you kind of just discussed that. So we'll move straight on to school and community. So how could you reduce your waste within your school or your community? Could it be that, as an example, you ask for less food when you get your food at school? You say, actually, you know what, can I have a small portion? Because you don't eat a lot, instead of throwing that big pile of mashed potato into the bin. Maybe somebody else might want it. And then within your community, how could you reduce the waste there? Just have a little think about it. Again, if I start again too soon, please feel free to pause the video and discuss it further. I don't want to interrupt anybody's conversations. But just take that time now. Okay, got some ideas? Were they good ideas? I'm sure they're all good ideas. So something you might have discussed, these are ones that we potentially mentioned already, but they're always good, is think about portion sizes. So in school, ask for less food. If you're at home and you know you're not going to eat that much, maybe don't cook the whole packet of chicken or the whole packet of mince or the whole packet of mashed potato. Maybe save some, put it in some cling film or a bit of tin foil and put it to one side and have it another day. Freeze it. Keep an eye on the best before dates. Remember that a best before date is just its best before. It's not used by, it's not going to kill you if you have it the day after. It's just the best before date. That pepper isn't going to suddenly go from being absolutely acceptable to the worst thing in the world, poisonous for you, in the space of a few minutes when it goes from one day to another. And use your sight, your smell. Touch it. Is it really soft? What's it like? Okay. Keep an eye on those best before dates, obviously. Use food for other meals. So we're talking about, having a bit of food left over and thinking, you know what, I can use it for another meal. A great example of this is if you have a Sunday roast, your vegetables and things like that, using it as a bubble and squeak the next day. Putting those vegetables into maybe a soup or something. reusing that meal, that food for another meal that you potentially would have just thrown away before. And composting. So it's this one, but it's really, really useful and effective. You take a piece of fruit or veg that's out of date, that it's too soft, no one in your family's going to use it, you don't want to use it for soup, you're worried about it, well, compost it. Let it go back into the ground, but in a healthy way, not a way that releases tons of methane. So, what have we learned today? Is surplus expected? So we've not necessarily said exactly the answer to this, but it's kind of an interesting question, I think. Do you think that surplus is expected? Do you think that surplus is inevitable, that we're always going to have surplus no matter what? Or can we actually affect surplus? Can we reduce surplus and even make surplus redundant? Overproduction can make something surplus. Can it? Can overproduction make something surplus or not? And I can make changes to prevent food waste. Can you? Can you prevent food waste? Okay. Well, surplus is expected, unfortunately. But food waste isn't. We need to have a good distinction between surplus and food waste, because a lot of people expect that surplus is the same thing as food waste. It isn't. Surplus is an over or too much of a product, but that doesn't mean that it has to be wasted. It's about reusing things. Overproduction can make something surplus. We overproduce, we make far too much of it, there's a surplus. And this one's surely very obvious. You can make a difference to your food waste. Thank you. Apologies for the moderately disrupted session this time, but lots of people sign up for membership, lots of people querying about different things. If you're watching and you're live and you're looking at it right today, don't forget we've got £15 vouchers for anybody who receives free school meal vouchers, one per week per child. So please do pop into store for that, and continue watching for the things we're gonna share on this group. Thank you very much.